I think just to get the lay of the land right now, he is meeting with Boulder officials to fully understand, if anyone can fully grasp what kind of a tragedy has overtaken this county when we know that more than 1,000 structures were burned and there are literally thousands of people now who are looking for a place to live and a way to start to begin the recovery process. So shaking hands there with Sheriff Joe Pelley, and that's Dr. Jill Biden there with him as well as they begin their tour around Louisville. We understand that they were going to be in the Harper Lake neighborhood, still working on getting some clarification on that, but these are live pictures as we are watching the president, who arrived in Colorado just about an hour ago and making his way to the burn area.
So he's here. He's scheduled to meet, and I couldn't tell if that was a destination or if he just stopped there to take a look, because it looked like his motorcade was parked behind him there. And that Harper Lake, our partners, the Denver Post, had reported that was the neighborhood of Louisville he was going to. And if you look at the burn area map, there was such a dense cluster of homes just south of Harper Lake that really, at least biggest concentration in Louisville, probably in Louisville, of any homes damaged. Louisville alone saw 550 homes just completely destroyed. This probably is his destination then, if they have people lined up to meet him. So he's going to take a tour, and the man said meet privately with some of the families whose lives have been upended here. And he also has freed up some federal money to help these folks get back on their feet, rebuild, and hopefully grease the skids on the insurance companies as well.
So he will be here for the next couple of hours. So just so you all are aware, there will be some traffic issues in Boulder County, specifically on Highway 36. But we are anticipating that a meeting will come here shortly at the Louisville Rec Center so that he can meet more on one with the gathering of families. But there is so much to talk about today with federal funding, what the state has done, what Boulder County has done, and then if you just look at that background and you look at the devastation, I mean, there's so much for families to attend to just in the days and weeks and months and probably years ahead. So really a tough day for so many involved as the president comes to Colorado.
And also, remarkably, there was not the loss of life in this fire could have been so much worse. Of course, the 2 lives presumed lost in this was way too many, of course. And then today we have learned the identity of one of those found in unincorporated Boulder County, 69-year-old Robert Sharp. We had reported earlier this week remains were found in the 5900 block of Marshall Road, and the coroner today identified it as this 69-year-old Boulder resident. So our thoughts are with the Sharp family today.
And we have, it was through DNA that they were able to identify him, and the family has already put out a statement saying thank you everybody for all of their support, and they wanted some privacy at this point, but how much he loved Boulder, how dedicated he was, a longtime Boulder resident, or Boulder County resident I should say. So let's bring in Denver 7 reporter Megan Lopez as we monitor some of the president's actions out there. And Megan, I know you've talked a lot with Governor Polis. You've been monitoring much of what are the next steps. So talk first about the federal disaster declaration. What happens from here?
Well, Ann, we're waiting to see if the president is going to announce during the remarks that he's going to make today whether there's going to be any more that he's going to do. The reason I bring that up is because what we saw him do last month in Kentucky after declaring that federal disaster declaration, he actually went in his remarks when he visited Kentucky beyond that, and he offered to have the federal government pay for all the overtime for emergency workers and for all of the debris removal for a 30-day period. So we're waiting to see if he's going to have any more from that. But talking about what's already been declared federally for Colorado anyway, the assistance includes grants for temporary housing and for home repairs, as well as low-cost loans to cover some of the uninsured property losses that happened inevitably in this massive wildfire. We're also going to see from that federal funding state and local governments, some nonprofit organizations that qualify, be able to tap into some of that money for some cost sharing in order to be able to do some emergency work that inevitably has to happen. We're also going to see some federal funding be available for cost sharing for hazardous material mitigations. That's going to mean removing a lot of that debris from the area. So those are things that have already been addressed in that federal disaster declaration. And again, we're going to wait to see if the president has maybe even more that he wants to offer.
And Megan, and we're getting glimpses of the party who is with the president and first lady today. I know Governor Polis was waiting for him at the bottom of the stairs along with the lieutenant governor. So our congressional, or at least our Democratic congressional delegation is with him. Joe Neguse has seen this, but I believe this will be the first-hand account that the rest of our members of Congress and the Senate have seen of this damage.
Yeah, and we saw them get off the plane with the president and Dr. Biden, the first lady, and they're really kind of showing their full federal force from the Colorado delegation anyway, but also the full state force. I had mentioned that we saw Governor Polis on the ground, and that this is going to be the second time in just several months that Governor Polis has met with the president. This time, unfortunately, it's obviously for this disaster. The president was back here in September visiting for a much different type of reason, but we saw Senator Michael Bennet with him. We saw Congressman Jason Crow with him, and we saw Senator John Hickenlooper along with Governor Polis, Lieutenant Governor Primavera, and then I also spoke with some of the state delegation, our state lawmakers, and Senate President Leroy Garcia said that he's going to be meeting with the president as well. So just a really big local, state, and federal force. And I really think what the governor and what the local delegation is going to be conveying to the president is our short, medium, and long-term needs, really, because those are all three very different things. The short needs is just that immediate relief that families need, a place to stay, food, mental health services, things like that. But then you're going to see some of those medium and long-term needs, and that's really the commitment that I think that they're going to want to push and impress upon the president, is that this is not something that's going to be resolved in a week or a month, or even, I mean, we've seen with the East Troublesome fire and some of those other really massive fires that have happened here in Colorado, the long-term, years-long needs that they're really going to be impressing upon the president, and the need for federal help in all of those regards, guys.
Definitely. And you mentioned the East Troublesome fire, and so obviously wildfires are not new to Colorado, but clearly we need some action on those fronts. And today, in fact, we know that Congressman Neguse introduced the Western Wildfire Support Act. So tell us what you know about that and what happens from here with that.
So Congressman Neguse has been somebody that has, well before this fire, pushing for federal wildfire help for Colorado, not just in the recovery efforts, if you think after wildfires, but also in the mitigation efforts that could happen beforehand. He's the one that wanted to and introduced a bill to have this civilian climate corps that we have on a statewide level here in Colorado, but he's pushing for it on a federal level. And the reason that this touches so close to Congressman Neguse's heart is because some of those biggest wildfires that we saw play out last year happened in his district. So this touches home for him. You might remember, Ann and Shannon, that he also had to evacuate in Thursday's fires, and he was unsure what was going to happen with his own home. So you're talking about something that's not just happening in the mountain communities, unfortunately. You're talking about something that's coming and creeping into urban communities. It shows all the more precedent and all the more need to focus on climate change and to focus on wildfire mitigation strategies. That's something that Neguse has talked about with me quite a bit over the course of more than a year.
Megan, as you're speaking, a very sweet moment. Presumably, people who lost their homes are talking to the president and Dr. Biden, and he just gave her a very long embrace. Politics aside, what that must mean to anyone to get a hug from the president in front of this damage of your home. So again, part of this visit is symbolic. That's part of his role is to put a spotlight on something, to show the importance of something. And certainly anytime the president is directly involved, whoever that president is, that shows you the priority and the importance of this. And certainly that's part of today's visit, is to show Boulder County, show these wonderful people that they are a national priority right now, Ann.
And the value of being heard.
Yeah.
I think no matter what, it's hard to even fathom what these families are dealing with right now, and to be able to be heard, at least the president's ear, for just even a few minutes, I'm sure is valuable, because there is so much ahead of these folks when we're talking about $500 million worth of damage here with all of these homes. And then, and as we're watching them walk through we've also heard Boulder County talk about just even the rubble itself and how dangerous that ash and debris can be, and how toxic the chemicals are, and some of the debris in all of that rubble. So there's just so much to take on right now, and again, just to be able to be heard and to be able to feel like someone is listening is certainly a good start, but there's so much ahead.
All right, we are at 3:30 here, Denver 7 special news coverage of President Biden's visit to Boulder County to survey the damage of the Marshall Fire. The total now creeping upwards, almost 1,100 homes destroyed in this fire, just unfathomable. In Louisville, where he is today, 550. Down in Superior, more than 300 homes. Unincorporated Boulder County, 150 homes, and each one of those homes, of course, a family who no longer has a place. And as I'm watching this, I'm also reminded of the cruel timing of that fire. It is covered in snow now. We've had now 2 snows since that fire. The day it hit was the day before the snow. Couldn't have been drier, couldn't have been windier. Had that snow come a day before, we wouldn't be sitting here today.
And I think that is not lost on any Coloradan who knows how quickly our weather can change here. And yes, it was beneficial to some degree to have that snowfall, but then again, to be going back and seeing your home in rubble, what was your home, it just is, it's a lot to take for these folks right now. So getting back to the president's visit here, President and Ms. Biden will be here in Colorado probably until about 6:30 this evening. They will move on to Las Vegas from here, but so just know that there will be some traffic delays on Highway 36 and around the Boulder area. Right now they're in Louisville, but presumably they will be affecting traffic throughout Boulder County. So do be aware of that as they spend some time here in Colorado to monitor this damage.
Actually, let's take a look at some of the routes the president's going to be taking. Jason Luber joins us live, our traffic guru. Glad you're on board for this coverage. Tell us what to expect out there, and also this coincides with the schools letting out.
Exactly right, Shannon. And the Boulder Valley School District is really concerned with in that area right now, and we did have a temporary closure of Highway 36 in this area just a little while ago. It was closed down on that westbound side coming from about 104th Church Ranch. It is still slowly recovering, and it was closed on the eastbound side just before McCaslin. So this is the area that is still closed down just off of Highway 36, and I expect Highway 36 once again to close down when the president leaves at about 5:30 or so, after he's done meeting at the Senior and Recreation Center up here in Louisville. So we are going to have again another closure. It's going to be majorly impactful, obviously, to the commuters here this afternoon. And so start thinking about some other routes around. So this is going to be the area he's going to be meeting with the families and have some remarks at about 4:30. And about 5:30 or so is when I expect Highway 36 once again closed down here between McCaslin and Wadsworth. So start thinking about roads like South Boulder Road, Arapahoe Road, maybe, Arapahoe, and then taking the diagonal up to Longmont and run that over to I-25. You can get out on Highway 93. That's a good way to get around it, but this is going to be a major impactful area. Now, once the president gets on Marine One, flies back over to Denver International Airport, all these roads will reopen, and then traffic will start to thin out. But it will be a major impact, obviously, for about a half an hour or so, right around 5:30 to 6 o'clock when they do close it down. And we're still going to try to figure out, I guess, how we're going to get those buses over there to the kids and get those kids back home with some of those roads that are still closed up there.
All right, great update. Thank you, Jason Luber. So it could be an eventful afternoon in Boulder County, so bear with us as we try and bring you the ins and outs of the president's visit to Colorado up until about 6:30 this afternoon and into the evening. In the meantime, we've talked a lot about people dealing with their homes, with their mortgage companies, with just their belongings and how to recover all of those things. So let's bring in Jason Grenauer now, because we know that several families have reached out to FEMA so far. What are you hearing from FEMA, Jason?
Yeah, I spoke to an administrator with FEMA yesterday, Ann, and the total as of yesterday was north of 1,300 people that have applied so far for federal assistance. And just to break it down for you, what this FEMA assistance actually covers is things that your insurance does not. It's something that kind of is that second line of defense. After your insurance policy kicks in, FEMA can then step in and provide for things like housing, for temporary housing, for even moving or storage costs. And that is all available in one place, and that's in Lafayette. That's at this disaster assistance center we've been telling you about for multiple days. The state keeps pushing people there during Boulder's news conferences. Officials there keep telling people, if you've been affected, and not just if you lost your home, you can go to that disaster assistance center. They call it the one-stop shop for everything that you might need, including FEMA and these federal dollars. Now, coming from that FEMA administrator, they said that they have already sent out multiple letters in response to people's applications, but some of those letters do involve asking for more information. This is government federal funding. There is some red tape here. We have heard stories of people who have lost their homes in the past. You have to go through a lot with your insurance company, a lot to get this federal money, but it is out there, and that's why people are being pushed to places like this disaster assistance center, or as well as the website, which is online at disasterassistance.gov. Now, according to that administrator, also, they are processing these applications. They are working as fast as possible, but they don't have any specific timeline because each one of these applications is a potential different dollar amount, a different insurance policy, and things like that. So that's why it's going to take some time for the folks that you see there on their screen meeting with the president, standing outside of their burned homes. Now, one other thing that I asked this FEMA administrator about ahead of the president's visit was what this visit really meant to people. Just the president being on the ground isn't necessarily going to change anything for the people that he meets, but according to this administrator, this visit does mean a lot. Take a listen.
That the nation is feeling their pain, and that is true, that this has risen to the very highest levels for attention. And I think there's a comfort in knowing that. It's not going to do anything necessarily tangible and immediate, but as an individual who's experienced that kind of loss, there's a tremendous amount of comfort in knowing that the president is paying attention and the president cares enough to come to your community.
And we do apologize for the occasional camera movement and shake. This is a national pool photographer, and after covering several kind of high-profile visits like this, it appears what's going on is the president is walking, greeting a few people, potentially then getting in the motorcade and driving to a different point in that neighborhood, while the media is either running ahead or trying to get in position. So that's why occasionally we just keep cutting in and out. But as you can see, the president trying to provide some of that comfort that FEMA was just talking about to these people, that even though they've lost everything, we've seen the resilience in this community, and to be able to shake hands with the president or give the president a hug regardless of politics, that is what could help these people get through this as we continue to try to help them as much as we can through our Denver 7 Gives Fund, which has now raised close to $500,000. A lot of work still to be done. You can still donate there by scanning the QR code there on your screen to help wildfire victims rebuild. All of the money that is raised is going to stay here in Colorado. We've already gone on some shopping sprees and things like that to get people the things they need just right now in the immediate. We will be staying with them throughout the long term, just as they wait potentially for these federal dollars, these FEMA funds, or for their insurance company and more of those dollars to kick in. We want to be that stopgap. We want to help fill that gap, so you can donate to the Denver 7 Gives Fund by scanning that QR code on your screen. A lot of talk about dollars and cents here, but really you can kind of sense the emotion in that meeting between the congressional delegation, the First Lady, and the President, meeting with people standing really just on the street outside of their completely just gone, their homes that are just completely gone at this point. A lot of emotion. Definitely we expect the president to mention that and potentially tell a story or two of what he's talking to these folks about when he speaks just a little bit later on. And Shannon.
All right, Jason, one of our two Jasons on the cover today. Jason Grenauer, thanks very much in the newsroom. You know, and I'm looking at that and what that must mean to those people. That's a lot of horsepower staring in the face. You've got two United States senators and two members of Congress, the president and first lady, just talking to, looked like two different couples about presumably what they need. And again, this is not politics, this is not partisan, but this is a setting that Joe Biden is known to be good in. He's made a long political career at talking just to the folks, and I'm sure that just means the world to these people to have that sort of attention.
Yeah, we have confirmed that they are in fact in the Harper Lake area of Louisville right now, speaking to those families. And yes, when you're looking at that collection out there. Clearly Joe Neguse out there, Senator Michael Bennet, Senator John Hickenlooper, Governor Polis, and to be able to have, at least for a few minutes, the attention of Colorado powerhouses, political
That's
powerhouses,
right.
And you know, and hopeful that that our state follows through on some of these promises that are made. That I think that people are really hopeful that things will come, and that. Because we all know that this will be a difficult road ahead. When we've talked to other people who have been victims of wildfires in Colorado, it is a very long haul to be able to get information just to begin with, and then something as simple as, you know, clothing or finding a place to live, when we know in Boulder County there is already just such a lack of housing in Boulder
Right.
County, period. You talk to anybody who says it's impossible to find housing in Boulder, and then to now know that we have more than 1,000 families who are frantically looking to figure out where they can live. I think there are so many levels of frustration that they must be going through right now.
You know, and I talked about this before. The thing that really made this hit home, just specific to my life, my mother, when she was a child, her home burned down, and it's just sort of part of the family lore now.
Sure.
And it was such a big and lasting deal for her family, even into the second generation, of the things that were lost, the things they saw, how things smelled, and that was just one family. And I think, Andy, that is now magnified by more than 1,000 families now have that, are going through all the, not just the loss, the physical loss, but the emotional scarring, all the things that go, the headache of the red tape and the paperwork with your insurance company. Back up and leave, what do you want? All that's being played out times 1,000 here in Boulder County.
And on top of that, Shannon, this is the holiday season.
Yeah.
You know, people were on holiday, people were on vacation.
There are burned Christmas trees in there.
Families have lost so much, but this is also in their memory forever when they think about, you know, where were you during the holidays of, you know, 2021 going into 2022, and this is what people are dealing with right now. So there's so much on their plates right now as they walk and talk with the president and first lady and try to figure out how to take these next steps in their lives.
Looks like they're gathering for a little group photo here. Oh, everyone's handing their cell phones over to whoever that is to please get a picture. That's going to be a powerful Christmas card photo for perhaps next year. You've got Joe Neguse, Senator Hickenlooper, Senator Bennet. There's Governor Polis wanting his cell phone back, please, for that photo. Joe Biden. There's Sheriff Pelley. Also, the large bald man keeping watch over
Several men keeping watch over this group today. You know, we also should mention that Boulder Valley schools went back to school this week, which was somewhat controversial because some families felt like it was just too soon. And yet others felt like, at least the school district felt like this was the time to be able to at least give the kids of Boulder schools the opportunity to just go someplace, get back into a routine, and just start to have conversations with their friends, see their friends once again, and see some healthcare workers as well if need be, just to be able to give them some sense of normalcy. So we know that kids were back in school this week, although we know with bus routes today, those might be a little messed up just because of the motorcades that are happening.
And the motorcade you can see trailing, actually it's in front of and behind this presidential delegation as they tour the Harper Lake neighborhood. It's just off McCaslin there in Louisville, as he's going to greet some of the first responders, it looks like, who just did yeoman's work that night, and well, every other night too, but that was really something. It's nice to see them get some recognition. It looks like maybe EMTs behind them, or perhaps sheriff's deputies. I can't tell who's.
And we just could not ever say thank you enough to these first responders who we know we're scrambling, just like everyone else. We're scrambling that night because the flames, the winds were moving so quickly that it wasn't, you just couldn't even anticipate the growth of that fire, and they did such work. And in fact, just yesterday, Boulder Emergency Management tweeted out some pictures of animal rescues. That was
a big component. Absolutely
incredible to see. Llamas that had been collected and taken to a safe place. And I saw one officer with chickens inside his vehicle.
Wow.
Because, and what do you do with all of those animals? And there were so many people like the Louisville Fire Department, who we all, I know, want to say thank you so much for all the work that they did.
And I mean, some of these firefighters, first responders, lost their homes that night. So not only were they having to do their jobs, at the same time, they knew that they were losing what all these other people had lost as well. So they are recovering from that, just like so many other people. This is a very nice moment that they can get some thanks straight from the top here.
And then to not be able to go home and collect important belongings, and to know you have to count, hopefully, on your family, your significant other, to be able to do the evacuation steps that so many people, want to be able to do. And then we know that our first responders in Boulder County were not able to do that because, in this case, job came first. So
that's such a good point, though, because you think about anytime you have a tough day, home is where you go recharge. Home is where you rest. Home is where you can get away and break from it. And this wasn't a bad day. This was a once in a lifetime horrible thing that happened, and there's no place now to go for respite. There's no place to recharge. There's no place to go escape what it is, because you're living in you can't escape from it. So we just thank these women and men so much for all that they do every day, and certainly how they rose to the occasion last Thursday.
And so many people staying with friends, staying with relatives, trying to find an apartment, staying in hotels short term, and then just trying to figure out what is next. We talked about some of the families who we've introduced our Denver 7 viewers to this week, like the Cullen family, who they left their house without even shoes on. And so we were able to take them out and go shopping to be able to give them a little bit of sense of normalcy. I'm interested to see what was the exchange just now, and it may have been a badge, something from
some memento from that
given to the president. So
it was a nice,
it would be nice to
moment.
be able to hear the conversation. Unfortunately, we are able to watch, but our news crews being kept quite a distance so that they can have the conversations that they need to have right now.
Absolutely. And also, I want to, while we're watching this live picture of the President and First Lady in Louisville, do you see that code, that QR code on your screen? We're going to leave that up there, hopefully throughout this coverage. That all you have to do, so you open your phone, take a picture, so just scan that like you're going to take a photo of it. That will populate and take you to a link, and you can give to the Denver 7 Gives Wildfire Fund that way. And we thought we'd make it even easier. You all have been so generous, but now we'll make it even easier for you to keep giving. Listen to this, more than 3,017 people, individuals so far, have given $483,000 in 1 week. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I promise you, that money's going to go to good use, and every dime of it is going to go to the people who need it. And you're looking at some of those people right now live here on Denver 7.
And having the opportunity to shake hands with the First Lady and with the President, people who have lost so much, yet came out today to be able to have this face-to-face meeting, face-to-face conversation. Since the President has come to Colorado today. You talked about the Wildfire Relief Fund, Shannon. I'm so stunned. I mean, it really doesn't matter if you have $5 to give or $50 to give. It is stunning how generous people have been and want to do so much. And as you said, we promise that all of these funds that are raised specifically for the Wildfire Relief Fund will stay within Colorado and will be put to good use. And there you see on the right side of your screen, Jacqueline Allen shop. I think that was when she went shopping with the Cullen family.
And
that was
about,
really just to buy some shoes and to buy some clothing, because they had nothing when they left their house. And one of their kids, they were able to buy a very sweet little stuffed animal just because she had lost all of her stuffed animals in the fire. So that just one example of where we start, but we promise, even though, you know, we're giving them, you know, I can't remember what the amount was, you know, $100, $500. There is more money, and we will down the road stay in touch with these families so that when they need a deposit for something, or when they need grocery cards, or when they need who knows what, you know, more winter jackets, you know, we are staying in touch with these families so that we can help them as they begin to try to help themselves as they move along.
So many individual compelling stories of loss. Another one, Ann, that you just couldn't even believe. A family evacuated for the fire. They lost their house. They're staying in a hotel. They leave with just their vehicle and photos, and their vehicle stolen.
Right.
Out from the hotel where they were staying. And so that's another family that the money you are giving is going to help. So many deserving people going through the worst time of their lives. And we are so happy we can be a conduit and help pass your money along to them and get it to where it needs to be. And this is, like Ann said, we're just getting started. The ball's just getting rolling on both raising the money and giving the money out.
And so many stories, Shannon. I mean, we're talking about young families. We're talking about Joseph and Cindy Reed of Louisville. And that was a couple who just moved to Colorado a couple of years ago. They moved here from Atlanta because their daughter and son-in-law lived in Louisville. So they moved out here so they could be closer to family. They lost their house in the fire. And
with a medical condition that they're already dealing with. And that's why they moved here in the first place. So we're going to stay on this for a little while longer. There will be a Denver 7 News at 4 o'clock, a proper newscast coming up in 9 minutes with Jessica Porter, who's right over there. So stick around for that. As we continue to watch these live pictures from the Harper Lake neighborhood of Louisville in Boulder County, as the president meets with people who, well, those are their homes behind them, or what is left of their homes behind. And we've seen these pictures of how capricious the fire was. It would burn one house and leave another one unscathed. That is not really the case in this particular neighborhood. This is such a highly concentrated neighborhood where I think almost every single home was lost, as you can see every once in a while for behind the president and these people.
Right, 550 homes in Louisville. 378 in Superior, 156 in unincorporated Boulder County, with the cost of the damage more than $513 million. I mean, just staggering numbers.
Staggering.
When you add that up, and when you think about the enormity of this unthinkable, really unthinkable tragedy that happened so quickly. You know, we've somewhat grown accustomed to wildfires in Colorado, but this was unlike anything I think anyone had seen before, because it all just happened so quickly with those winds that we expect from Boulder County and so forth, but nothing like that, nothing like last Thursday.
I mean, obviously this is happening in Boulder County, it's happening in Colorado, but this truly is a national story. It was on the front page of every national newspaper on Friday. It was on every network newscast, and obviously now it has brought the White House to Boulder County. So that's, you know, that, like you said, it is unimaginable, and this is what we're talking about here. That, and I don't think we'll ever truly be able to understand the loss. We can see these flyover pictures of all the char and the absence of life, but I don't think we'll ever truly get over that. I mean, you know, last year with those large wildfires up around Grand Lake, I mean, so devastating, so horrible. But that was a lot of wilderness. There were obviously homes lost and structures lost, and I'm not diminishing that at all, but this is not something we see.
Not in a city, not in a suburb.
This is just the burbs, you know. Right. This is just where folks live and shop, and you know, we're all just saying, I can't believe it happened here, and also how this is I think changed a lot of how a lot of us feel and think now about wildfires. We've had a discussion now at my home, at my in-laws' home. do we have to have a go bag now? I don't live in the mountains. I just live, in a neighborhood, and because those people didn't. Why should they? That's not something you expect.
It's not on their radar. That's
changed
for
the
sure.
conversing and maybe the way we all have to start looking at things.
And to
unfortunately,
start having those conversations. How do we prepare? What if? What would we take? But just more live pictures now as we see the President and First Lady talking to more and more families lined up. We know that they will eventually get to the Louisville Rec and Senior Center, where they will have more of a sit-down conversation with folks. But a little golden retriever there. It's part of the welcoming line for the President and First Lady. Just so many people who have shown up to see this procession, really, of politicians who have come to Boulder County. But I think it was incredibly touching to see the Louisville firefighters and the other first responders that were out there. Because the President was saying thank you for your work, as we say to them as well. We are so thankful for all the work that they have done for all of our communities, because those are the people you call on. Those are the people when you need something, anything, whether it's a dog rescue, whatever it is. We count on our firefighters and first responders.
The President saying hello up close to this beautiful golden. Nice moment there. The President from here, now I don't know if this was built into his actual schedule or if more people are showing up than they were expecting, I don't know, but the actual official White House schedule has Air Force One up in the air by about 6:30 out of Denver International, where he flies on to Las Vegas. He's actually speaking tomorrow at the funeral of former Senator Harry Reid. Former President Obama is giving the eulogy, but he's going to speak there tomorrow. So that's what the rest of today's itinerary looks like for him.
In the meantime, so many families out there in the Louisville, Superior areas, I'm sure just can't take in that picture enough of where their home once stood, what their neighborhood looked like, and to gather some of the memories, just memories of home sweet home that is gone right now. And so I'm just trying to assess damage, but also trying to relay their needs to FEMA, to Boulder County, to the governor, and now the opportunity to share their needs list with the President as well.
All right, as we continue our live coverage here of the President's visit to Louisville, let's bring in Tony Kovaleski, our chief investigative reporter, also among the Jasons and Megan today. Good afternoon, Tony. Where are you exactly?
Yeah, good evening, Shannon and Nan. I'm outside the Rocky Mountain Metro Airport, where the President's motorcade came through here about 3:05. Talking to some people outside, just getting perspective. Clearly, this is part of that healing process. You guys talked about Denver 7 Gives. I remember last week being out in the neighborhood in Louisville talking to residents as they went back and looked at their home and recognized that everything's gone, but had the perspective that they can rebuild. We're looking at a healing process of not weeks or days. We're looking at several months, maybe a year, maybe even more than a year, as this community tries to rebuild. But the message the President sends by coming here, forget your politics, R or D. The President came to Colorado today to send a message to all of us that he's with this team, he's with the governor, and as we work to rebuild, whether it's through Denver 7 Gives or help with the federal government or from the federal government, that's significant. I talked to one individual gentleman that came out here, Stephen Bush, and I asked him why he came out, and he said, you know what, it's very invigorating to see that Washington, D.C., the federal government, the leadership of the free world comes to Colorado and sends a message. And as we've talked about this afternoon, we saw it happen more than 20 years ago with Columbine. We saw it happen with the Aurora Theater shooting. And these are sad times, but it's also a message of rebuilding what we do. I also want to send a shout out to Boulder County Sheriff Joe Pelley for his leadership over the past week, because remember, we still don't know the exact cause of this devastation. And to the sheriff's credit, he first came out in those 36 hours after the fire saying that they believed it was started by a down power line in those high winds. He learned within about a 24-hour period that was bad information. To his credit, through transparency, he stepped up and said, hey, here's why I said that. I heard scanner traffic. I heard emergency crews saying they saw down power lines, they saw sparking power lines, and that's what led him to release that. Now, obviously, he's in the middle of a massive investigation to try to figure out exactly how this started. But this is something for our community to sit back. This is why we love living in Colorado. You know, you talk about the fire that happened and you see the neighborhoods with open space. Well, many of us live in communities just like that, with open space, with grass a couple hundred yards from us. And we now know we're more at risk than we probably thought we were 8 days ago. So clearly a lot being learned tonight. And we will continue to follow the president as he comes back here to the Rocky Mountain Metro Airport. He's expected back in the next hour or so. We'll have those reports, and we'll continue to provide perspective.
All right,
reporting
Tony.
Live, I'm Tony Kovaleski. And Shannon?
Thank you for that very much. Now, the reason we are not showing you the live coverage of the president, the press crew literally just got in a van and left. So that would indicate that they are moving on to the next location, which is supposed to be at 4:35 at the Louisville Rec Center and Senior Center. So it looks like they are on schedule
And that
somewhat.
is where the president will be meeting with families one-on-one in a very private setting so that they can have an opportunity to share what they have been through and what the future looks like and what federal funding might look like as well, to be able to assist not just the state but also Boulder County in trying to figure out how to move forward for these families.